Hello and welcome to a very special programming here. We're very pleased to have Derek Scheller. He's a CalU alumnus and content creator at Cyber Warrior Studios to talk to you a little bit today about cybersecurity awareness. It is Cybersecurity Awareness Month here in October, and with everything going on in the world, this is a very important topic. I think that all of us are affected by it, particularly our alumni and our current students. So I'm going to turn it over to Derek, and he's going to talk to you more about cybersecurity awareness.
Yeah, so it's good to be here and good to talk about cyber awareness with everybody because it is really big in the field and everything else like that. And it goes for all users, whether it be someone who doesn't know anything about security or, just knows how to turn a computer on, or even someone and some of us security professionals and IT specialists and things like that. So cyber awareness is really big, and I really do think we need to do more about awareness and training and how we go about training other people. So to get started, I did put together a little bit of a presentation, so we'll see how well it goes. But essentially, cyber awareness, and again, my name's Derek Scheller. I am a senior security consultant, and I am also the owner of Cyber Warrior Studios, the YouTube channel, podcast, and things of that nature. So the general outline, I'm just going to go over a little bit about myself, and then we'll cover a little bit about phishing, smishing, passwords, the clean desk policy, endpoint protection, VPNs, wireless security, USB drives, 2FA and MFA, patching, social engineering through surveys, and only keep what you need. And then I'll have a slide at the end with all my contact info as well. So a little bit about me. Again, I am the owner of Cyber Warrior Studios, which is a YouTube channel, and it also has a security happy hour podcast. I go by Cyber Warrior on just about everything I do. I do have a CISP, OSCP, several SAN certifications, a CEH, and among others. I'm not only a CalU alum, I am also a military veteran. I am a senior security consultant, content creator, YouTube and podcast. Security Happy Hour is where what you can look up to find the podcast itself. And again, Cyber Warrior Studios. Now, a little bit about phishing, vishing, and smishing. Phishing is really big. So is smishing and vishing, especially these days with everything going on with the election and COVID and all that other stuff. So some of the things to be aware of, and I pulled this just because it is a common SMS phishing attempt that a lot of people have seen recently, and I keep seeing them pop up on Twitter and Facebook and things of that nature. But essentially, this is just a message that gets sent to just about anybody's phone, and they want you to click the link, which takes you to a site, which is a fake site, and they want you to type in a bunch of information. If you get these, please just block the number. Yes, you'll still get more. But at least it'll stop them from randomly sending you messages eventually. I don't think I've seen one in probably about a month. Vishing, I've had quite a few calls on that. And it's anything from, hey, your iCloud account was hacked, to, hey, I'm a social security officer and you have a warrant out for your arrest, and all these other things. A lot of them start off as robocalls. You press 1, talk to somebody. 9 times out of 10, I've been hung up on simply for asking why they called me, because they don't seem to know. Phishing is another big one, and phishing is really big, and there's ways you can go about recognizing it. One of the big ways is looking at the email address. If the email address has random characters or anything of that nature, then it becomes very blatant that it is a phishing attempt. And it's hard because they are getting better with these things. It becomes very difficult to tell real from fake. So you just got to be cognizant of anytime you open up an email, what to look for, what is real, what isn't. If you are hesitant or have a second guess, or you don't remember placing your Amazon order, if you didn't put in for any Amazon gift card things or anything like that, don't click those links. Don't give anybody your information, and be sure to check the email address. And one of the best ways, and I can actually pull it up here. Let me show you. So in this email right here, you can see the email addresses that are, that things are coming from. So if in that email it doesn't say the actual domain, or if it's just a bunch of random characters, then it's definitely phishing. In these itself, in the email itself, a lot of phishing emails, especially a lot of your poorly done ones, they'll actually have a website link in here. But when you see things like this where the entire image is a link, now this one did come from Best Buy, but for the ones that you get kind of not sure on, when you see just one image and the entire email is just a link to take you to somewhere, it's a good sign that it's a phishing email. So those are just some things to check out for. Again, phishing, honestly, don't pay attention if you get a phone call from iCloud or Apple or the Social Security office. You'll get certified mail, or you'll get an actual email to your iCloud account from Apple. So there are ways around that. Now, going on to passwords. Passwords are really big. I recommend 15 plus characters for any password, and it's a combination of upper, lower, special characters. In order to do this, it's best to have some form of password manager. LastPass, OnePass, KeyPass. They all work and they all have their ups and downs. And the reason I recommend those is because you can have one master password, and then you can actually use these to generate random passwords for every site. And things like LastPass are cloud-based, so you actually log into the website to access those passwords. And as such, it also has tie-ins to your phone and everything else like that. And what this allows for is allows you to have a different password for every single site that you log into. So that if something, say, Facebook gets compromised in some way, shape, or form, they can't also get your email or LinkedIn or your bank or whatever the case may be. So this makes sure that every single website has a different password. The other thing I want to talk about is a clean desk policy. A lot of people wonder, why is a clean desk policy important? What does it do? And really, this is more so once a lot of us go back to the office. But even at home, A, it keeps things neat and organized. B, you don't have PII or anything like that out in the open, passwords, things of that nature. So anything confidential, any passwords, any personal information, health information should be locked up prior to leaving for the day, as well as your screen being locked. So these are just things that you can develop a habit with now, being remote or being at home, and then take it to the office where things are just always clean. And again, I get it. You're going to have documents on your desk on occasion, but putting them away before you leave for the day or before you even leave your office for lunch or whatever the case may be is definitely ideal, because then it keeps somebody like a janitor or somebody who's trying to sneak information, an insider threat of any sort, from looking at that desk and being able to gather information. Next, I'm going to cover endpoint protection. Now, endpoint protection, your antivirus, firewalls, things like that, all operating systems are vulnerable. I don't care what it is. I don't care who you are. Mac and Apple, Linux, Windows, they all have vulnerabilities. They can all be compromised in some way, shape, or form. So I recommend using something with a complete protection. Things like Bitdefender, Malwarebytes, and ESET, they have their pros and cons to each. I personally use Bitdefender. It's what I recommend to most people. But they do come with an antivirus, firewall. Bitdefender also comes with an anti-spam, web protection, and VPN, as well as banking protection or online purchase protection. So no matter what your operating system is, find an anti-malware solution, preferably something that is a full security suite that you can use, because it's only inevitable before something tries to access your system or before somebody clicks a link and gets on and downloads some type of malware. So having that protection in place is invaluable. For your VPNs, there's a few out there. I don't personally, depending on your uses, I don't necessarily have a preference. Bitdefender does have its own that you can purchase. I think it's something like $10 a month. There's also NordVPN, Proton VPN, and Hotspot Shield. And VPNs just encrypt your data and basically make it secure from endpoint to endpoint so that no one in the middle can access that information. Wireless security is another big thing. And the reason for that is because, especially being remote, we have a lot of our devices on wireless. we tend to go to coffee shops or hotels or anything like that and use their Wi-Fi. I don't suggest using public Wi-Fi unless you're using a VPN, just because for two reasons. The first one being you don't know who's listening, and if you're actually on that public Wi-Fi. There are things out there called pineapples that make you think you're on public Wi-Fi when in reality you're actually connected to somebody else's system. So using a VPN will at least keep that person from being able to see that traffic. On your personal Wi-Fi, I would say disable WPS if it's enabled. It's still in use today, but it's not enabled by default anymore. However, having that enabled makes your Wi-Fi router an easy target for somebody to try to break in and gain access to your wireless network and such the rest of your computers. The new security mechanism out is WPA3. So if it's available on your router, I recommend using it. If it's not, at least WPA2, as that is the common security method. Also, if you're on public Wi-Fi, I would suggest limit the use of your banking or email, just because if somebody does find a way to sniff out that traffic in the middle, you don't want them to be able to access your credentials or gain access to any of that information. USB drives. USB drives are huge. They're used a lot. And even in businesses today, even though we recommend that you use some type of OneDrive or cloud-based, they're still used. One thing I will say is, unless you wipe it completely, don't ever put a USB drive that was given to you by somebody else or another company into a company computer. And I even wouldn't put it on your personal computer until you've wiped it completely. Things like Bitdefender and Malwarebytes, and I believe ESET will scan drives as soon as they're plugged in. But before you let it run anything, I would definitely go in and format the drive. Never mix personal and business. So if you have personal thumb drives, keep them personal. If you get a thumb drive from a corporate, from your company, do not plug that into your personal computer, because you don't know what your personal computer has. You may have malware on there already that you don't know about, and it transfers over, and now you infect your company. Also, if possible, encrypt drives. That way, if it gets left out and you have something personal on there, maybe it's a balance sheet, maybe it's your to-do list, whatever the case may be, if there's anything personal on there, at least if it's encrypted, it makes it harder, if not, a lot less likely for somebody to access that drive and gain that information. Next, 2FA, two-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication. Now, I'm not going to go over exactly the difference between the two, but I will say these are things that you need to use. Yubico YubiKey and Google Titan Key are hardware tokens that allow you to log into a computer first with a password and then with a hardware token. This is a hardware token. This is the Google Titan Key. With that, I plug it in. So once I enter my username and passwords, it'll say, hey, please authenticate with your key. Plug that into the USB drive. I touch the point on top, and now I can log in. And they have ones that work for your phone. They have like NFC. They have USB-C ones. But it essentially is a little more secure than any of the other options, just because it requires a hardware token on top of you actually activating it. So you have to be there to activate that token. The Google Titan Key also comes with a Bluetooth version, so that you can link it to your phone or laptop via Bluetooth and have a token that way. Then there is the applications like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, and I believe LastPass has an Authenticator app, as well as a few others. Those are essentially Authenticator apps that spit out a 6 or 7 digit PIN. It varies depending on the application, that allow you to act as a second form of authentication. So when you go to log in, instead of asking for a key, it'll ask for the one-time PIN from the app. I use both Google and Microsoft, and I believe I have a few in somewhere else. So they all have their purposes. They all have their ups and downs. Authenticator is sort of the second best option for a lot of things. Finally, you have SMS and email. SMS, though viable and though works for most people, is at risk of SIM swapping. So essentially somebody taking your number, going to log in as you, and because they swapped out their SIM and now actually have your phone number and you don't know it, they can gain access to that that second factor of authentication via their phone. Email is another one that if you use as a 2FA or MFA, not really viable, because if your email isn't secured via some second form of authentication, and somebody gains access to it, then when they go to access any of your other sites where you're using email as that authentication mechanism, they can now access all of that as well. So I would definitely suggest staying away from those two if you can. Again, it's not always an option, so anything is better than nothing, but I always go for the best and then downgrade from there. So if you can't use a hardware key, use an authenticator app. If you can't use an authenticator app, use SMS or email. Next is patching. And patching is something we all hate because, especially with Windows, even sometimes on Mac and Linux, it requires a system reboot a lot of the time. So we tend to avoid rebooting our systems or want to keep them up and running or whatever the case may be. I will say this: find time at least once or twice a month to make sure all of your applications, whether it be your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop, whatever it is, make sure it's patched, updated to its fullest capability, because it will patch over a lot of those 0 days, a lot of the security flaws that have come about, and you want those to be patched. That includes your browsers, that includes your cell phone programs, that includes email, whatever you're using, Discord. It doesn't matter. If there's an update for it, update. Social engineering through surveys. This one gets interesting because I see them all the time, and a lot of people love to do them, and they're on Facebook, and you can connect it, and it's this great thing because it'll tell you which Hogwarts house you belong to, or are you a Targaryen, or whatever the case may be. Look, it's just harvesting data. That's all these surveys are doing. You're giving away personal information, and a lot of times they're answers to security questions to these people that are developing these surveys. And I'll be honest, even if you are just filling out the ones that someone say, hey, it's COVID, I'm bored, answer all these questions. Cool. That's all well and good. Unfortunately, with that, you've also decided to give whoever is on your friends list access to this information. So it's something I would not suggest. I don't do them. I never do them. If I do them, I put in fake info. So it's not something that I would ideally want to see others do. Finally, if you do the ones that tie into Facebook, like the applications where you go to a site and it says, oh, I've got to connect to Facebook to be able to post to Facebook, you're also giving those applications access to your friends, sometimes your friends of friends. So it's harvesting and gathering all this data more and more, so that if the wrong person has the wrong intent, they can access your security questions to several sites out there. They also have access to your friends, emails, things of that nature. Finally, only keep what you need. And what this means is, if you've signed up for something, whether it be a trial or an application that you used for maybe a month, go ahead through and get rid of it. All right. Delete the account, delete the access, take away its permissions in your email through Google Security, whatever the case may be. Because if you don't do that, then these sites maintain access. And if you are reusing passwords, which you should not be doing, but if you are, and one of these old sites gets breached and your password ends up being divulged, now because you left that access there, somebody else has that information. So go ahead and delete access to anything you are no longer using, because it'll keep you a lot more secure, and so it lessens your risk footprint for somebody gaining access to something that they shouldn't have access to. And that includes going into Google and Facebook and looking at what applications actually have access to your information. This way you can go through and take away what you no longer think needs access to that information. Finally, here's how you can contact me if you need to get a hold of me. So I am on Twitter at CyberWarriorST1. Here's my email, my YouTube channel, my blog, as well as how you can get a hold of Cyber Warrior Studios on Facebook. So again, if you need to get a hold of me, feel free. I'm always open to questions. I also have Discord channels and Discord servers. So feel free to shoot me an email or get a hold of me on Facebook or whatever if you would like, or Twitter if you would like access to my Discord server. And other than that, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that you all learn something and are a lot more aware as you go about accessing the internet and computers.
Absolutely. And Derek, we want to thank you again, and encourage everyone to check out, and we'll make sure we link to it here too, all your channels and stuff. I know some of this is stuff that I've already kind of like wrapped my head around with like the multi-factor authentication and stuff like that. But just some of these simple tips, I think that folks, maybe, if you're not a digital native, you don't think about these things, or, if you're not tied in. But a lot of these, right, are simple steps that, don't really take a whole lot of know-how really. I mean, it's just, you could Google a lot, YouTube, check out your resources to find steps on how to do this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there. Like, I'll be honest, when I was even doing my videos, and a lot of people try to gear things towards companies or towards businesses, and even sometimes people, when you're talking about general consumers, it's very difficult to find a long list of topics to talk about in cyber awareness. But I have about 16 videos out there that talk about other people to follow, and all these topics, and even going as far as securing your children, right? Because for us as adults, it's a little late. We didn't learn about the data harvesting. We didn't know about all this stuff, when social media first came out. So we put all our information out there, our pictures, our friends, our, MySpace, everything was there. And as we all know, once it's on the internet for now, it's on the internet for life. There's no getting rid of it because somebody has a screenshot, there's history, there's things like this. Whereas
There's a
for our kids,
Wayback Machine, right? Like you
oh
could,
my goodness, the Wayback Machine is horrible.
yeah,
Does a lot of good, but it does a lot of bad.
right.
So like, for our kids, we can actually, teach them, don't do these things, because then somebody else can get that information in one way or another. Even for my kids, like if I give them access to something, a lot of times it's using my accounts because
Sure.
they're mine. I have access. I could see what goes on. I have a lot of things like parental controls and things like that in place. Plus, I teach my kids. This is what I do for a living. So sitting down and talking to kids is no big deal for me. I've got 5 of them, so makes it easy. But yeah, there's a lot out there that we just don't think about. Those surveys are one. I see them all the time. I
Yeah,
see
especially like
something
you
on
made a good point
Facebook.
about like COVID now, people being at home, they're bored.
Oh
And,
yeah.
I've got more middle names and first pets names and street numbers. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not nefarious. So I could definitely see where people could, really glean that information, and take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's a big thing, right? So you look at, I can't tell you how many surveys I saw on Facebook of, oh, it's COVID, I'm stuck in my house, I'm bored. Answer me all these questions. Hey, what's your spouse's name? How long you been married? Where'd you meet? Where'd you get married? How many kids do you have? What are their names? And I'm just sitting there looking at them going, oh my
Yeah.
God, you just gave away every question.
All your security questions, right? I mean, those are all the answers. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, do you have pets? Yeah, how many?
How many
How many
names?
names?
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely.
What
No, well,
kind?
yeah, no, and it's funny because I think we're moving to this where we're all digital citizens, right? And whether we like it or not. And I think it's funny because I hear people talk about, like I mean, for where we're at, we have some folks that maybe aren't very technologically savvy and in our day-to-day actions. So you pay like I listen to people talking about like, you know, cybersecurity, but then they're still doing those surveys, or they really think there's a European prince that wants to give them $10 million. And like I mean, I know that's like the played out joke, but it's I mean, it's 2020 and that's still a thing, like we have to have these conversations. So I think
So
it's
one of the
important.
big things that I talk about it in phishing, right? It's happened to me several times in the past few months. The first one was iCloud. I got a call and it said, hey, your iCloud account has been hacked. Please press 1 to talk to somebody. And I've had them hang up on me twice because I get very overly sarcastic with them. I'm like, really? It was where? When? What happened? Click. Damn. And more recently was, hey, we've seen suspect information with your bank accounts. This is the internal or the Federal Reserve officer, or I've had Social Security officers also say there's a warrant out for my arrest, this, that, the other. So I press 1 to talk to them, and they're like, hey, this is so-and-so officer, and it's some dude with an accent. And I'm like, cool, what'd you call me for? They're like, well, I'm like, no. You called me. So why did you call? And then they hang up on me again. And I'm just like, if you can't give me an answer, you should know, even if it's a robo system, guess what? You initiated that system. So you should know why you're calling someone. And so some of these scams just aren't viable, because if it was a real officer, they would have that information in front of them. They would know exactly who connected to them. So, hey, guess what? Why'd you call? Who are you? Like, and we don't ask these questions. We see a lot, and it's a lot with the elderly, right? They get scared.
Absolutely.
So they press 1 and they're like, oh my God. Yeah, so this is my name. Here's my social. Here's my bank account information. Dude, no. Don't ever give your social over the phone. Don't ever give a password or an email account over the phone, unless it's for like, you know exactly who you're talking to. Apple, they'll email you. Federal Reserve, government, they'll send you certified mail.
Yeah, the
Like,
IRS isn't robocalling you to collect on your tax bill, you know?
no,
Yeah.
and that's the big thing is if the government's going to call you, they're not going to call you through a robo dial system. They're going to legitimately have an officer call you. And when they call, it'll be a person when you answer. It won't be a robo system. So phishing is really big. Phishing, even I see a lot of people talk about like the coronavirus, the election, and things like that, and phishing emails going out for those. Now, I don't know. I got really good spam protection, so I don't always see them. The worst I see comes across my iCloud email, and it's like, hey, you've won this $5 or $50 Amazon gift card. Not in it. It's just because I signed up for something with my Apple account. And so you decided to harvest that email and use that for spam. iCloud spam filtering is garbage. But everything else I use is pretty solid. So even Bitdefender ties into my Outlook and my web and everything else. Like, it has hooks into everything. So if they ever got breached, I'd probably be screwed. But no, it does. It hooks in everything. So like I catch, it's very difficult for me to do some of my work, because on my virtual machines that I use, I have a lot of hacking software and things like that on there. And when it goes to call out, it'll be like, hey, I can't download this. It was stopped by what? Bitdefender. That's on my host. You should not be stopping this. So it gets entertaining trying to like put my exceptions in and do things like that. But yeah, it's these are things that people should do. Like, you don't have to be a security professional to practice good cyber hygiene. Keep your accounts clean. Don't put your personal information out there. And I even know security professionals that like try to remain anonymous, which is possible to find anybody if you really look hard enough, but they try. Me, I don't care. Like, here's my name. Here's who I am. You see this pretty face. Like, I don't care. I'm out here. But it's because I want people to know that I'm approachable, that if you have a question, reach out and let me know. If you have kids that want to get into security, and that's one of the big things that I'm gonna have to start talking about more, is letting us as security professionals talk to your kids, not only for cyber awareness, but because maybe they want to get involved in security, but maybe they're like me. I didn't have anyone who knew security growing up. I didn't have anyone that was really into computers growing up. So I developed late how to like do things, but I started out fixing computers and then working my way up from there. So it became very difficult to get into the field. Whereas a lot of these kids, if you just showed them, and I'm talking, it helps with diversity, it helps with everything, because you reach them young and teach them that it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you start now and learn this, you're going to be better than everybody else anyways. So you could give yourself a job. You can literally behind a computer screen. And it's funny, there was a joke about it. Like, hey, I came in for this interview and they said, what makes you qualified? And he says, I'm the one that put myself on the list to get interviewed.
But really though, like,
Like,
yeah.
that's, you can do things like that. And people are like, oh, it's illegal, this, or the other. And my son yells at me all the time because he's like, oh, I can't do that. It's illegal. I'm like, yeah. Worst they're gonna do is come after me. Like,
Yeah,
but I
right.
didn't do
It's
it,
under
so I
your
don't care.
account, right? Yeah, no, that's the worst
Like,
that could
I
happen.
don't care.
Yeah,
But
no,
it's
I'm
a
with you there.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's so important, I think, and because and I think we talked offline a little bit about this before this session, but like technology has become such a part of everyone's job, everyone's life is integrated with this now. And protecting yourself is I mean, it's super important. I've been I know my emails got pwned before and from breaches, and I've been the person that picked up a USB drive at a trade show and like put it on my work computer and it was like, what's all this stuff? So like it is as simple as it thinks. And I like to think that I'm pretty like up on digital security, at least in my, but I'm really not. You know what I mean? So this I think is helpful for even people like me who think they have like an idea of it, but I know there's more that I should be doing too. So I really want to thank you, absolutely, man, for taking the time out of your busy day today to kind of go over this with us and our alumni and our students, so they can be a lot more digitally savvy as well.
yeah, definitely. And like I said, if they ever want to get a hold of me, they're more than welcome to. I have everything under the sun out there. I mean, legitimately, between Twitter, Discord, email, YouTube, blog, Facebook, Patreon, merchandise.
Name it,
Like,
right?
if
No,
you,
no OnlyFans though. I hope, right? No
no,
Only.
no, not yet.
Not yet. I said the
But
same thing.
right? If you Google Cyber Warrior Studios, you're gonna find me. If you Google Cyber Warrior, it gets iffy because military likes to steal that term. But I, I'm there. All right. So just look for me and you'll find me. Look up Derek Scheller Jr. You'll find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere. I don't hide, and I
He's got a
want
big
people.
digital footprint, ladies and gentlemen.
I
So
do. I do. This guy does. But it's because I want people to be able to reach out to me, right?
no,
I
that's
know
important.
how to recognize scam artists. I know how to recognize, somebody trying to just fish me for information. And because of that, I feel confident in what I do. And I feel confident sharing my information. And because I've already been involved in so many breaches and hacks with OPM and LinkedIn and Lord knows what else. And I'm like, look, you already got my social and everything else. Like, what more can you get from me? Worst you can do is improve my credit rating. Like, come on.
Yeah, like if someone wants to hack me and like erase my student loan debt and put extra zeros in my bank account, I'm cool with that part.
That's what I said. I was like, look,
more than that for
all
me.
these
Go ahead.
all these breaches on hospitals and everything else, can't they just like take care of the student loan companies and just wipe out everybody's debt? You know
Seriously,
how
I mean,
happy
the
that
fact
would
that it's
make?
not, yeah, the fact that it's not done yet, that's surprising to me. We need to get all of the cybersecurity graduates together on this project, I think.
Hit that and the credit companies. Make
Yeah,
everybody's
right.
credit score 800.
Crack them both, well, experience already like full of holes, So, but that's a conversation for another day. But again, man, I want to thank you so much, and I want to encourage everybody, definitely check out Cyber Warrior Studios. We'll link it all in the post and stuff when we get it out here too. But again, thank you to Derek for taking the time to talk to us today, folks. Pay attention to your cybersecurity. Take care of yourselves. Keep your information protected. Don't do anything stupid. And keep practicing safe cybersecurity practices. But again, for Derek, I'm Ryan. This has been one of our special presentations on cybersecurity here from the alumni office. So until we see you again, thanks, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a good one.